Hey, what is going on everyone? We are back with another attachment breakdown video. And today I wanted to go over the Grau 5.56 assault rifle. This gun is proving more and more popular in Warzone, and it is one incredible versatile weapon. So stick with me and I will show you how to turn this into a laser firing beast. At the end of the video I will also go over my preferred Warzone and multiplayer loadouts for this gun. As always, if you enjoy this kind of content, drop a like on the video and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on any of my next videos. Also, comment down below what gun you would like me to cover next time. Anyway, I'm Average Dad, and let's go. As I said, today we're going to cover how the attachments affect the recoil on the Grau 5.56. We're going to have a look at the underbarrel, the barrels, the stock, the rear grips and the muzzles. So for the underbarrel, we start with the Commando foregrip, gives us recoil stabilization and aiming stability. Then we go on to the Merc foregrip, which will give us some recoil control and hip fire accuracy. The Cronin Shark 2, which is very similar to a tactical foregrip on some of the other weapons. This just gives us a bit of aiming stability. We have the Ranger foregrip, which will give us recoil control and aiming stability, and the Operator foregrip, which gives us recoil control. And we'll move on to the barrels. We get the ZLR Drifter A-08. This gives us aim down sight speed, movement speed and recoil control. This is quite a unique barrel in that what it does when you equip it, it removes your underbarrel, as it does come with its own foregrip. We then have the Tempest Archangel. This gives us damage range, bullet velocity and recoil control. The XRK CZen Mark II gives us some damage range and some bullet velocity, and the FSS 20.8 inch Nexus barrel, which will give us damage range, bullet velocity and recoil control. If we then go on to the stocks, we get the FSS Blackjack, which will give us aiming stability, the XRK Strike Light 3 gives us aim walking movement speed, and then we have no stock for the movement speed and the aim down sight speed. We go on to the rear grips. We have the XRK Void 2, which gives aim down sight speed and sprint to flight speed. The Cronin Sniper Elite, which will give aim stability and aim walking steadiness. And the FTAC R89 Rubber for recoil control. And then when we move on to some muzzles, we'll have the muzzle brake for recoil stabilization, the compensator for recoil control, and then the monolithic suppressor for sound suppression and damage range. So as we test each category, we'll pick the best for each one, and then we'll keep that one equipped as we go on to the next, and so on. So the idea being, by the last one, we'll have a full attachment loadout for the best possible recoil control on the Grau 5.56. So let's jump into some testing and we can see what happens. So if we start with no attachments on, we can see we get a slight kick out to the left before it pulls off up and slightly to the right. It is quite a large spread and it does pull up rather high. Next up is the Commando foregrip, and this smooths out the curve. We can see it still follows the same pattern as before, but it is a lot cleaner and tighter. We get a slight reduction in the vertical height too. Now we have the Merc foregrip, and we see a much larger drop in the vertical height. So it is pulling all that bullet spread in nicely. There is also a tightening of that left kick as well. The spread isn't as tight as a Commando foregrip though. Next up is the Cronin Shark 3. And as with the tactical foregrips on my previous video, this really doesn't provide much of a benefit to the recoil at all. The difference between this and no attachments is really that it just doesn't quite pull up as high as having no attachment on. Next, we'll take a look at the Ranger foregrip, and this gives us a similar pattern to the Merc foregrip, but it is a lot cleaner and a lot tighter. We still get a big kick out to the left. It does drag up and to the right, but overall it is nicely compact in its spread. And then finally we have the Operator foregrip, and this gives us a nice, clean, smooth line. It is almost straight up and vertical before slightly drifting off to the right. The spread is nice and tight. It has big reduction in that vertical height compared to having no attachments. So if we take a look at all 6 of them together, we can see it's between the Ranger and the Operator foregrips, with the Operator being slightly more predictable pattern. So we'll keep that one on, and then we'll move on to barrels. So with the barrels, we'll start with the ZLR Drifter. Now, with this not having an underbarrel foregrip per se, we see the recoil is quite wild. We have a big kick out to the left and then a sudden shift to the right with quite a wide bullet spread. Next up, we take the Tempest 26.4-inch Archangel barrel, and this is very tight and almost completely vertical with a slight sway off to the right. The spread is pulled in nicely and tight, and with a nice reduction to the vertical height. Now we take the CZN Mark II, and we can see the bullet spread is slightly wilder with this one. We still follow the same pattern as before, just with slightly less left kick at the start as it pulls off to the right. And then lastly, we have the FSS 20.8-inch Nexus barrel. And as we can see, this brings that spread in nice and tight, but we are penalised by the big kick off to the right with this one. The initial left-hand sway is not too bad, but it really moved to the right-hand side. So if we take a look at them together, we can quite clearly see the Archangel is the tightest and cleanest pattern of the 4. So we'll keep that one equipped, and we'll move on to the stocks now. So for the stocks, we'll start with the FSS Blackjack, and we can see we get a nice smooth curve to the recoil pattern and keep a tight spread while keeping that vertical height from pushing up too far. We also don't get too much left-hand side kick out of this one. Next, we have the XRK Strike Light 3, and as we can see, the spread is much wider with this stock. We get a greater kick to the right, and this also pulls just slightly higher up vertically. And finally, we have it with no stock. Now, we know this won't help with the recoil, but it is good to see how much of a trade-off having that faster ADS is. And as we can see, it isn't horrendous, but we do start to lift higher, and the spread is nowhere near as tight. So let's put these side by side, and we can quite clearly see the difference having a Blackjack stock on actually makes. So we'll leave that one on, and then we'll move on to the grips. Right, so for the rear grips, we'll start with the XRK Void 2. So we can see, as expected, it doesn't really help at all. It actually opens up that bullet spread and slightly causes the recoil to push up more. Next up is the Cronin Sniper Elite. This one pulls the vertical recoil pattern down slightly. The initial few shots are now almost vertical before pulling out to the right, and we see a fairly tight spread. And lastly, we have the FTAC R89 rubber. Now with this, we can see a nice tight line, and again, it holds the vertical line down. The right hand pull is slightly less with this one, and like the Cronin, the initial burst is almost completely vertical. So when we have these side by side, we notice that the rubber has a slightly tighter, more stable spread. So let's keep that one on, and we'll move on to the muzzles. So let's start this off with the muzzle brake. We get a nice, nearly straight line with this. It has almost completely removed the left hand kick, and it's barely moving off to the right at all. This is a nice tight spread to it. Next up is the compensator, and I've got to say, I really have slept on this muzzle in the past. I used to just ignore it, but damn, this thing is good, and it brings it all in. Tight spread, straight up and slightly to the right, and very little vertical lift. And finally, we'll put on the monolithic suppressor, and we get a much higher vertical lift, still quite a tight spread, and we're going just slightly to left and then rather far off to the right though with it. So on the side by side view, we can see how the compensator really brings everything home for this setup. And if we compare this to the first screenshot with no attachments, we can see just how far this has come. There's next to no kick out, and we have dropped over half the vertical height off this. Right, so this is what the final loadout looks like. We have the compensator, the Tempest 26.4-inch Archangel barrel, the FSS Blackjack stock, the Operator foregrip, and the FTAC R89 rubber grip. Now this is an ultra low recoil build, but it will suffer in the movement and ADS speed. So we can change it up for different situations. So for Warzone, we could put on the monolithic suppressor to stay off the minimap and to get some of that extra damage range. Drop the stock completely and put on the 60 round mag for that extra gas in the tank. For a smaller 6v6 game, we could stick with a standard 30 round mag. Put the compensator back on for the recoil control. Swap out the Archangel for the FSS 20.8-inch Nexus barrel just to gain slightly more mobility, and either have the TAC laser for the ADS speed and the aim instability, or go for the no stock again for ADS speed. It's entirely up to you. It is a very versatile gun though. I really hope you've enjoyed the video and found something helpful in this today. Don't forget to let me know in the comments what gun you would like me to cover in the next video. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Thank you for watching.